Welcome aboard, Space Pirates. I am your captain, the Dread Pirate Dr. Disaster, and today I wanted to point out more evidence that Star Wars is either dead or dying, depending on your perspective.
Take care now. Bye-bye then.
Now, I can't tell you for sure whether or not Kathleen Kennedy is going to lose her job soon, but I can tell you this. Based on the evidence that I'm going to present to you today, she absolutely should lose her job. While you are watching this video, put yourself in the position of her boss and ask yourself whether or not you would keep her around.
You're fired!
For years, we've known that the Star Wars movies released by Disney went on a downward spiral in terms of the money they made at the box office. The Force Awakens cracked $2 billion. The Last Jedi made $1.3 billion, and Rise of Skywalker made just over $1 billion. And the drop-off in the non-episodic movies was similar. Rogue One made just over $1 billion, but Solo failed to hit even $400 million.
Man, you are one pathetic loser.
But that's old news. The movies aren't what we're going to look at today. Everyone knows about that. No, today we're going to look at the astoundingly bad downward trend of Star Wars books and TV shows. We don't have box office tracking to give us all the numbers on those, but we do have other means of seeing the enthusiasm of the general audience slide away. We're going to take a look at evidence that Star Wars is failing across the board, and I'm going to give you my predictions as to the fate of the woman who has overseen this tremendous drop-off in value for the Star Wars brand. Here's a little spoiler.
Look what you've done! I'm melting! Melting! Oh, what a world! What a world!
We're going to kick this off by having a peek at this here article from Bounding Into Comics. Star Wars: The High Republic book sales numbers provide more evidence that Star Wars is a dead brand. Aw, no way. You mean to tell me that a series of books which at one juncture featured Geode the Rock is failing? I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm sure Geode had more personality than Rey Palpatine, and I mean that literally. I dare you to describe Rey without mentioning what she does or what she looks like, i.e. describe her personality. You can't do it. But yeah, even with such stellar characters as a pet rock, Star Wars books are faltering. Weird, am I right? Anyhow, the article says, these book sales numbers from Circana Bookscan were shared by Michael Gallagher, author of Body and Blood, and Declan Finn, author of the White Ops novel series, in a newly released article on the Upstream Reviews Substack. For those unfamiliar with Circana Bookscan, the outlet touts its service as the gold standard data service that tracks actual retail sales of trade print books in the US on a weekly basis through direct reporting from all major retailers. Specifically, the two authors shared that the first Star Wars: The High Republic novel, Star Wars: Light of the Jedi by Charles Soule, has sold 119,855 issues in a hardcover format. However, subsequent novels saw massive declines in sales, with Cavan Scott's Star Wars: The Rising Storm placing second on the list with only 59,779 sales. In third was Claudia Gray's Star Wars: The High Republic Into the Dark, It sold 58,249 units. The fourth entry belongs to Charles Soule again with the paperback version of Star Wars Light of the Jedi. It only sold 38,028 copies. In fifth is Justina Ireland's Star Wars The High Republic, A Test of Courage. It sold 37,782 copies. Not only did they share the declining sales, but they also compared the publishing initiative's first wave of books to its second wave and determined that Star Wars The High Republic saw a 90 to 95% drop in sales between the launch with Light of the Jedi and the current High Republic novels in barely over 2 years. Let me just interject here really quick. As someone who is somewhat familiar with the costs of publishing books, I can tell you this. A 90+% drop from numbers that weren't particularly great in the first place would be cause for any publishing house to stop printing those books immediately. The only thing saving Star Wars here is the fact that they're Star Wars. With that brand recognition, it's hard to not want to publish their stuff. And I'm sure that there are contractual obligations as well, which are causing these books to get published. But let's continue. Not only do they note that High Republic novels have seen an immense sales collapse from its first to second phases, but the High Republic books' sales numbers pale in comparison to expanded universe stories such as Timothy Zahn's Heir to the Empire trilogy. Florida radio station WUWF reported Zahn's Heir to the Empire trilogy had sold over 15 million copies back in 2014. If we were to play a game of one of these things is not like the other, I think you'd be able to spot it. Light of the Jedi by Charles Soule sold about 120,000 copies with another 30-some thousand copies of its paperback version. Cavan Scott's The Rising Storm sold about 60,000 copies. And Timothy Zahn's Heir to the Empire has sold 15 million. Tell me again, corporate shills, how Star Wars isn't dead. Seriously, I want to hear from you mouth breathers a good explanation as to why the books today aren't receiving the same level of enthusiasm as the old extended universe books. Zahn told the outlet at the time nobody knew whether these books were even going to sell. I remember sitting around one day trying to figure out how many libraries there are in the United States, and if they all buy 2 copies, how many can we sell? Can we earn out this book? And as we now know, Star Wars fans were simmering there below the surface and just boiled up as soon as there was something to grab onto, and they've been going strong ever since. Yeah, that was back in 2014, and they are no longer going strong. Since that interview, however, the 2 authors also report the trilogy has sold another 5 million more copies, even after Kathleen Kennedy and Lucasfilm chose to remove the books from canon in favor of their own Disney canon. Citing the book scan numbers, they also note that a new box set released in May 2022 has sold over 13,000 copies, to show just how dismal the sales numbers are for the High Republic. Gallagher and Finn relay that Zahn's non-Star Wars books have also outsold the High Republic aside from the first one, Soule's Light of the Jedi. It's not just Zahn that's beating the High Republic. Kevin J. Anderson and Michael Stackpole have also reportedly outsold Lucasfilm's Star Wars novels with their respective Dune and Battletech novels. The duo also state, pick a well-known science fiction author, they've had a book or 2 outsell the High Republic novels the past couple years. Brandon Sanderson, Sarah J. Maas, Andy Ware, David Weber, Larry Correa, V.E. Schwab, T.L. Clune, or Anthony Doerr, to name but a few. Hell, even John Scalzi has better numbers. Given these numbers, the duo observe, these are numbers for one of the biggest IPs in history, in one of the biggest publishing markets, with one of the biggest promotional pushes behind it in recent memory. It truly is a dead brand, and bittersweet though it can be to express the thought, it deserves to be. Yup, Star Wars as a corporate brand deserves to be dead. Disney has chased away the people who kept Star Wars alive in the hopes of bringing in what they thought would be an upgraded fan base, the future of Star Wars, the young wokesters who've grown up with social media telling them constantly that the world around them is unjust. Let go of the past. Kill it if you have to. That was a rallying cry to these screeching crackheads who are terminally online. But it turns out that the wokesters aren't the same passionate fans that older fans were. They aren't buying the books, and they're not tuning in to the Disney Plus series either. Have a look at this Google Trends chart, which shows a definitive decline in enthusiasm for Star Wars TV shows. Google Trends showcases how often a search term is looked up on Google, and of course, when a movie or TV show is newly released, naturally it is common for that content to be searched up by those who are curious and enthusiastic about it. Google doesn't give us hard numbers as to how often a term is searched, but if you make side-by-side comparisons, it will show you percentages. Needless to say, this is a valuable way of measuring a search term's popularity. On this chart, we see The Mandalorian represented by the yellow line. The first spike on the left is when the first season came out back in 2019, and it was only outshone in popularity by season 2 in 2020, which was generally regarded as a stellar follow-up. But, as is always the case with Disney Star Wars, something happened which rubbed the fanbase the wrong way. I'd argue that it was a combination of Kathleen Kennedy firing Gina Carano for no damn good reason, and Lucasfilm's decision to slot the Book of Boba Fett into the lineup in place of a Mandalorian Season 3, which wiped away enthusiasm. Either way, if you look at that line in red there, which represents the Book of Boba, you will see it tapers off drastically. At its peak, Boba Fett reached only 35% of the popularity of The Mandalorian at its peak. What is noteworthy here is that the peak of Mandalorian Season 3, which is widely regarded as an abject failure, also reached exactly 35% of the peak of Season 2. This level of consistency tells me that we have found the elusive, woke corporate clowns that Lucasfilm has been searching for. Congratulations, Kathy. That 35% there seems to represent the audience you've been searching for. You sacrificed nearly 2/3 of your audience in order to appease these turds. And to make matters worse, the people who watched the first 2 Mando seasons represent a fraction of the people who were originally Star Wars fans. How many people didn't even give The Mandalorian a chance because they were already turned off by the Disney Star Wars films? And look at that line in green, representing the Obi-Wan Kenobi show from last year. That was a show featuring Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan Kenobi and Hayden Christensen returning as Darth Vader, and it reached only 73% of the interest of The Mandalorian Season 2. And worse yet, you can see that the show fell off a cliff after the first few episodes. Rather than spike as the show went along, as The Mandalorian Season 1 and Season 2 did, it died away with a whimper because it was so bad. And don't even get me started on Andor, a show that I'm told is actually not bad, but a show I don't give a shit about. And apparently, I'm not alone. We as a community are sick and tired of this bad Disney fan fiction, and nobody is paying for it anymore. And if I can see the numbers, and if you can see the numbers, then Disney can damn well see the numbers. My prediction is this: with Star Wars basically dead, Willow removed from Disney Plus and basically dead, and Indiana Jones about to bomb at the box office and basically die, I think Kathleen Kennedy will finally leave Lucasfilm. I think that she will be given her pink slip. They'll call it a retirement, but I will call it good riddance. My prediction is that if Indiana Jones doesn't clear $800 million at the box office, meaning that it will be in the ballpark of at least breaking even, then Kathleen Kennedy will leave within a year. And those terrible Star Wars movie projects that were announced a month or so ago will never be made. What do you think, though? Drop a line in the comment section. What will Kennedy's fate be? Thanks for watching, me hearties. If you haven't already, your captain is inviting you to subscribe to the channel and become a part of the crew. Life as a space pirate may not be glamorous, but there's always plenty of booty.